What happens when a self-made bakery CEO puts on an apron and steps into one of his own stores only to find a worker crying in the back room over unpaid medical bills? Isaac Jennings stood by the loading dock of the bakery's sixth location, tugging the brim of his trucker hat lower over his eyes. His beard was thicker than usual, and the faded brown hoodie he wore was stained just enough to blend in. No one would guess he owned the building they thought he was about to mop. Years ago, Isaac had started this bakery with a single oven in a garage. No investors, just flour, fire, and grit. Now there were 6 bustling stores across the city, but lately reviews were slipping. 3 customer complaints had hit his inbox last week alone. Long lines, rude staff, wrong orders. His district manager, Troy, always had an excuse. Short-staffed, new hires, nothing major. But Isaac wasn't buying it anymore. He hadn't met most of the frontline workers. That was on him. The company had grown too fast, and he'd let people like Troy handle the day-to-day. But something felt off. He needed to see it for himself. So here he was undercover as Ian, a new trainee sent over from a temp agency Troy supposedly used when stores were short-staffed. The disguise worked. This location had never seen him before, and with 6 stores and over 70 employees, no one blinked twice. "Hey, temp guy," a voice barked from the kitchen. "You're late. Grab an apron and get to dishpit." Isaac turned to see a short, thick-necked man wiping his hands on a towel. The name tag read, Marty Manager. Isaac nodded, keeping his head down. "Yes, sir." The morning rush was chaos. Orders stacked up, trays rattled, and the air was thick with cinnamon and stress. Isaac scrubbed pans in the back, sneaking glances at how things ran. Marty barely lifted a finger. He barked orders, critiqued everything, and spent half the time on his phone. At one point, a young woman behind the register accidentally rang up the wrong pastry. "You serious, Clara?" Marty snapped. "You've worked here how long? You can't tell a Danish from a croissant." Clara. She looked maybe 25, petite with tired eyes and a messy bun. She didn't talk back, just nodded and fixed the order. Isaac felt his jaw tighten. By noon, Isaac had seen enough to know the culture in this store was broken. But he kept quiet, watching. Around 2, he noticed Clara slip into the back hallway near the storage room. A few minutes passed. Then 5. Isaac glanced around. Marty was outside smoking, leaving the floor to a frazzled teenager who couldn't keep up. He quietly followed the hall and stopped outside the cracked storage door. Inside, Clara sat on a crate, head in her hands. "I don't know what else to do," she whispered into her phone. Her voice shook. "I can't afford the next round of meds. They said if I don't pay the last bill, they won't schedule the appointment." Silence. "No, Mom, I can't ask again. You're already helping with Noah's daycare. I'll figure it out. I'll figure something out." Isaac froze. His stomach dropped. She wiped at her face, trying to compose herself. Her shoulders shook with a quiet sob before she straightened up and hung up the call. She didn't know he'd heard. He stepped back slowly, heart thudding. She was working full shifts, getting yelled at, and still couldn't afford to go to the doctor? Isaac didn't need to ask questions. He'd seen enough. When Clara returned to the front, her smile was back. Fake, but convincing. Isaac walked over to the prep counter. "Hey, Clara," he said in a low voice. "You okay?" She blinked at him, startled. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just tired, you know?" He nodded. "You've been working here long?" 2 years. She wiped her hands on her apron. "I started after I had my son." Isaac hesitated. "Is the manager always like that?" Her eyes darted toward the kitchen door. "It's fine. You get used to it." He didn't push. Not yet. Later that afternoon, Isaac caught Marty berating another worker, this time over a schedule mix-up. The girl looked close to tears. Isaac stepped in. "Hey, maybe ease up, man." She said she'd try to switch shifts. Marty turned on him. Who are you to tell me how to run my store? You're a temp. Isaac didn't respond. He just gave him a long, unreadable look. Marty scoffed and walked off. Isaac took a break in the alley behind the store and pulled out his phone. He called his operations assistant, Marla. Marla, I need the employee files for this store, especially Clara Dobbins. And get me Troy on the line tomorrow. You okay? She asked. You sound off. Isaac stared out at the street, jaw tight. No, he said, but I will be. The next morning, he returned in disguise one more time. Marty was late. Again. This time, Isaac asked Clara to show him how to make the house cinnamon rolls from scratch. She smiled for real this time, proud to teach. He watched her with quiet respect. She was fast-focused. Despite everything, she cared. By noon, he had seen enough. Isaac walked into the back office, shut the door, and changed into his regular clothes. Crisp button-up. No hoodie. He fixed his hair and walked out, straight into the lobby. Clara did a double take as he stepped up to the counter. Wait. You're... Marty walked in and stopped cold. Isaac's voice was calm, but sharp. Everyone, can I have your attention for a moment? The store quieted. My name is Isaac Jennings. I'm not a temp. I own this company. Marty's face went pale. Clara's eyes widened. She took a step back, her hand over her mouth. Isaac looked at them all. And we have a lot to talk about. Clara's hand dropped slowly from her mouth. For a moment, no one moved. The mixer continued its steady whirl in the background, a dull hum threading through the silence. Isaac stepped further into the front of the store, his eyes scanning the room. A few customers near the pastry case had paused mid-transaction. One of the baristas leaned against the espresso machine, eyes wide. Clara shifted her weight like she wasn't sure if she should stay or bolt. Marty let out a brittle laugh. Okay, cute stunt. You had your little prank. What's the point, huh? You want to test how we treat new hires. Isaac didn't look at him. Clara, he said, his voice level. Can we talk in the back? Her eyes flicked to Marty instinctively. Then she nodded and let him pass the prep counter, through the swinging door, and into the hallway. Once the door shut behind them, she turned toward him, arms crossed, her back against the walk-in cooler. I didn't say anything, she said quickly. If this is about what you overheard yesterday, I wasn't trying to complain. I was on break. Isaac shook his head. You don't need to explain yourself to me. She stayed quiet, watching him. I didn't know what was happening in this store, he said. That's on me. But I'm here now, and I'm listening. Clara's jaw tightened. I'm not trying to get anyone fired. That's not what I'm doing. She exhaled, finally letting her arms fall to her sides. It's just been rough. This place used to run better. But things started changing a while ago. People quit. We got told to do more with less. I kept my head down. Isaac leaned against the opposite wall. You've been here the longest? I guess. Everyone else turns over fast. They either burn out or get pushed out. He nodded. What about Troy? Does he ever visit this location? Clara raised an eyebrow. Maybe once every couple months? And when he does, it's all smiles and fake compliments. He talks to Marty for 5 minutes, then leaves. Isaac looked at the floor, jaw set. And Marty? He does whatever he wants. Schedules who he likes, cuts shifts last minute if someone's not on his good side. I've seen him threaten to write people up just to shut them up. Why didn't anyone report it? Clara's laugh was short. To who? Troy's not listening. He and Marty are close. Everyone knows that. He considered that, then pushed off the wall. Do you mind waiting here a few minutes? I'll be right back. She didn't respond, but she didn't move either. Isaac stepped through the back door and returned to the front. Marty was pacing near the pastry display, muttering under his breath. The rest of the staff had drifted into corners, pretending to clean or restock. eyes flicking toward the register every few seconds. "Marty," Isaac said evenly, "we need to talk." Marty turned, his expression guarded now. "Office," Isaac said.
"Now."
Inside the cramped office, Isaac shut the door behind them. The hum of the fridge compressor filled the silence. "You've been managing this store how long?" he asked. "Little over a year." Marty leaned against the desk. "And, before you say anything else, I've kept this place running. We hit record sales last quarter." Isaac didn't blink. "You've had 5 resignations in 60 days. That doesn't concern you. Turnover's normal. This job isn't for everyone. Don't insult my intelligence." Marty's jaw worked. "Look, I'm tough, yeah, but I get things done. You want clean stores and steady numbers? That doesn't happen by being soft." Isaac's voice was quiet. "You think yelling at people and cutting shifts to punish them makes you a leader? This isn't a daycare. People need to handle pressure." Isaac pointed to the whiteboard on the wall, where the weekly schedule was scribbled in marker. "You cut Clara's hours last month. She was late twice. She covered 2 extra shifts the week before that. One of them, because, showed." Marty straightened. "What, did she feed you that?" "She's got a sob story for everything." Isaac stepped closer. "You're done here." Marty's jaw dropped. "You're firing me? On what grounds? You have no proof of anything." Isaac opened the door. "You can contest it if you want, but I have more than enough first-hand experience now, and I've already spoken to legal about the process. You'll get your final check by Friday." Marty's mouth opened like he might say something else, but then he saw Isaac's eyes and thought better of it. He grabbed his coat from the hook and stormed past the doorway. When Isaac returned to the hallway, Clara was still there, arms folded again. "It's handled," he said. Her eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" "He won't be back." She blinked, unsure how to respond. "I want you to take the rest of the day off with pay," he added. "We'll be closing the store early. I've got a lot of work to do here." She looked like she might argue, but then she caught herself and nodded. Isaac spent the rest of the afternoon in the store's back corner, reviewing files on his tablet and quietly observing the team. He interviewed each employee one by one in the break room, asking about their experience, what they needed, what had been ignored. Each conversation added new weight to the picture forming in his mind. By 4, he'd heard about missed overtime, inconsistent training, and a shift lead who hadn't been paid her promotion raise in over 3 months. No one had felt like they had a voice. No one trusted the system to fix it. When the last employee left, Isaac sat in the empty lobby, the chairs upturned on tables, the smell of baked apples fading from the air. He pulled out his phone and dialed Marla. "I want a full audit on all store management practices. Every location. Quietly." "Understood," she said. "And I need Troy in my office first thing tomorrow morning."
"No excuses."
He hung up and stared out the front window, watching the street lamps flicker on. This wasn't just about one bad manager. It was about a culture that had been allowed to rot under the surface while the numbers looked good. He'd built this business on the belief that people mattered. Somewhere along the way, that had gotten lost. But he wasn't going to let it stay that way. Troy didn't knock. He walked into Isaac's office with his usual hurried stride, half reading something on his phone as he muttered a greeting. Isaac didn't look up right away. He was seated at the long table by the window, a stack of reports and printouts in front of him. The coffee in his mug had gone cold an hour ago, but he hadn't touched it since. Troy finally noticed the silence and glanced up. "You wanted to see me?" Isaac gestured to the seat across from him. "Close the door." Troy hesitated, then shut it behind him and sat down. "Everything all right?" Isaac slid a printed schedule across the table without answering. Troy picked it up, eyebrows drawing together as he scanned the page. "That's the shift calendar from the Belmont store last month," Isaac said. "Half the staff logged unpaid overtime. One of them worked 42 hours without a break longer than 15 minutes. Troy leaned back. I mean, that's not ideal, but we've been spread thin. I've been trying to get approvals for more staff hours for weeks. Isaac tapped a different sheet. That's the actual payroll log. It doesn't match the schedule. Troy frowned. That's probably just a reporting glitch. We've had issues syncing with a scheduling app. I was in that store for 2 days. Troy blinked. What? I worked the floor unannounced. Watched the operation.
Talk to the team.
I saw what was happening with my own eyes. Troy's mouth opened, but Isaac cut him off. You've been overseeing these stores for what, over a year now? And you never caught that a lead baker hadn't received their raise? Or that the manager was cutting shifts based on personal grudges? I didn't know that was happening. You didn't ask, Isaac said. You didn't show up. Troy's jaw twitched. With all due respect, I've been managing 6 locations, overseeing inventory, navigating supplier issues. You spent more time building spreadsheets than building trust. Troy's eyes narrowed. I've kept your stores profitable. At what cost? The room went still. Isaac picked up a different folder. This is a list of employees who left in the last 3 months. I called 3 of them this morning. 2 said they left because of how they were treated. 1 didn't even want to talk. Said it was pointless. Troy shifted in his chair, voice quieter. If people had come to me directly, they didn't believe you'd listen. Isaac leaned forward, voice low but steady. That's the failure, Troy. Not the missed hours. Not even the turnover. It's that people in our stores feel invisible, disposable. Troy looked down. Isaac folded his arms. I built this company baking bread in a garage. I didn't do it so we could become another place where people clock in, get stepped on, and leave worse than they came.
Troy didn't respond.
You're being reassigned, Isaac continued. Effective immediately. You'll transition to a back-end operations role. No direct staff oversight. Troy looked up again, stunned. You're demoting me? I'm giving you a chance to stay. But you're not leading people anymore. Troy's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. Isaac stood. You can clear your schedule for the week. I'll have Marla loop you in on your new responsibilities. Troy rose slowly and walked out without another word. Isaac watched the door close, then sat again, rubbing his eyes. He hadn't slept much in 2 days, and the weight of what he'd uncovered sat heavy on his shoulders. But the path forward was clear now. This was just the beginning. Later that afternoon, Isaac drove back to the Belmont store, this time through the front entrance. The temporary closure sign still hung on the door, and inside, the lights were dimmed. A few employees were cleaning ovens and reorganizing the prep area. Clara was at the back, restocking dry ingredients into labeled bins. She saw him and straightened. He walked over, setting a small paper envelope on the counter beside her. What's that? She asked. Back pay, Isaac said. And a bonus. She opened it carefully, then looked up. This is more than I expected. You've kept this place together longer than anyone should have had to. She hesitated. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Isaac replied. But I do have a question. She raised an eyebrow. How do you feel about stepping into a leadership role? Her eyes widened. Me? You already lead half the crew without the title. You've earned more than recognition. I've never managed before. I'll train you myself, Isaac said. You care about people. That's the part you can't teach. Clara looked down at the envelope again, then back up. What about the others? I'm having every employee in the company fill out anonymous feedback forms. And I'm scheduling visits to every store over the next 60 days. No more decisions based on second-hand reports. She gave a small nod. That's a lot. It has to be, Isaac said. We lost our way. We're not going to stay lost. She glanced toward the front of the store. What happens to this place now? We reopen in 2 days. with new policies, new training, and a new manager. Clara's mouth parted slightly. You're serious? Isaac smiled faintly. You'll have final say on the new schedule. And I want you to help me redesign the onboarding process. What would have helped you when you started? She blinked. No one's ever asked me that before. Then let's change that. Behind them, one of the younger team members dropped a stack of trays. Clara stepped away and helped without hesitation, giving a quiet instruction and a quick smile. The worker relaxed. Isaac watched for a moment, then stepped into the walk-in to check inventory levels. Everything was cleaner than it had been 2 days ago. The team had taken ownership the second the weight of fear was lifted. That evening, Isaac met with the assistant managers from 2 other locations at the main office. They sat around a folding table in the break room, not in the formal conference area.
No laptops.
Just open notebooks and pens. He didn't give a speech. He asked questions. What's working? What's broken? What's missing? At first, they hesitated, unsure if it was a trap. But eventually, the answers came. Real ones, not buzzwords. One admitted they never received proper training. Another said they'd been covering for a sick manager for weeks without additional pay. A third talked about a customer incident they'd tried to report that went nowhere. Isaac didn't interrupt. He took notes. When they finished, he said one thing. We're not going to be the kind of company where people are afraid to speak. The room stayed quiet, but a few heads nodded. Isaac stood to leave, then paused. The Belmont store is reopening soon. It'll look different. If you want to see what we're building toward, I suggest you stop by. He didn't wait for a response. Driving home that night, Isaac passed the first bakery he'd ever opened. It was closed now, converted into a print shop. But the old signs were still faintly visible on the brick. He pulled over and sat for a minute. Not out of nostalgia, but to remember what it felt like to pour everything into something that mattered. He wasn't going to forget again. Not now. Not ever.